Hello and welcome to this Patent Academy Introduction to Basic Troubleshooting. Today we will talk about basic troubleshooting on patent Trinity devices. For this video lesson we have prepared a small setup. We have two patent Trinity units. We have SmartNode 4131 with the following IP address and a PRI unit, an SN4991 with this IP address. Those two units have a SIP connection between them so we can make SIP-to-SIP calls. On the SN4131, we have a soft phone registered as extension 500. And for placing test calls from the SN4991, we will use a call generator, which will make the calls to extension 500. Here's what we will cover in this lesson. We'll use some basic show commands to learn about our setup. We'll cover some shortcut keys along the way to save us some typing. And then we'll use Trinity's own internal call generator to place a call from one SmartNode while we have debugging running. Then we'll cover how to continuously monitor active calls on the system and wrap up with a couple of examples after that. Let's get started. First, we need to log in to the device. We'll use PuTTY as our SSH client. First, we will access the SmartNode 4131. We can see its IP address here. We will set up logging for this session. We would like to have a CLI output log, so we choose the printable output option. And we have to specify the log file we want to use. Let's call it test log. We choose to always append to the end of it, so we don't lose anything. And under Terminal, keyboard, we choose Control-H for the backspace key. Okay, now we can click Open. This starts a new SSH window. Let's log into our SmartNode. When we access a device, we would like to check a couple of things to learn how a device is set up. This will help us understand how it is configured and what its current state is. First, let's find out what is the IP address of the device and what are the IP parameters configured on this device. To do that, we run the command show IP interface. So with show IP interface, we can see that this device has two interfaces, LAN and WAN. The WAN, the wide area network interface, is up, and we can see its address, which is assigned through DHCP. We can also check the system and get the basic information about the system with the command show system info. With this command, we can see basic information about the system like we see here. It displays, for example, the model of the device, serial number, the software version on the device, and so on. If we would like to check what licenses we have on our device, we can do that with the command show system, and then pressing the tab key after I start typing the word licenses, Trinity will complete the word for me. This shows what licenses are installed on the system. When we are using the Trinity command line interface, we use the tab key extensively since it can help us to finish typing commands. And if we are not sure what commands or options are available to us, then we can use tab to see what those options are. If we type show and then hit tab, here are all the options which we get that we can use with the show command. For example, if we type show and then LO, then we see that our choices are location service and log. And the system will keep drilling down to the next level of choices. Let's say show log, and then performance, and we will choose daily and press enter. Log performance is not important at this point to our troubleshooting lesson. That's just our example here on how to use the tab key. And now we would like to check what is happening with our extension 500, whether it is registered or not. We can check that with the command show, location service, that service is LS, and identity. By the way, if you type something that cannot be completed as a command or it has no matching options, then Trinity displays its equivalent of a bad command or file name message that you might get from some shell prompt. So we can choose Identity 500. As we can see here, we have two existing identities, Identity 500 and Identity 123. Those are the only two configured at this point. And when we press enter, we can see that Identity 500 is still not registered. Now we would like to open our 3CX soft phone. And when we do that, it will log into and register itself with the system. Similar to other Linux and DOS shells, in Trinity, you can display and cycle through previous commands using the up and down arrow keys. We like that. So now we will use up arrow to get to our previous command, and then press Enter to run it again. And now we can see a slightly different situation. We can see now that the device has been registered. We have received the registration from this IP address for this SIP interface, and our authentication service has been specified for this identity using authentication service AS and username 500. So now we have determined that our IP parameters are okay, and our extension has been registered. We are slowly checking our way through our system, making sure that everything is what we expect it to be. And now we have to access our SmartNode 4991. We're not connected to it yet. Let's start another SSH window using PuTTY. So now we would like to place a call from SN 4991 to this extension 500 by using Trinity's internal call generator. The internal call generator gives us the capability to generate test calls from within the SmartNode unit itself. We do this by using the call command. We type call and then the tab key. First we enter our local number, which would be the number from which we are about to make a test call. That number is 123. Then we tab again, and we select the option Dial. And now we are defining which number we are about to call, in our case, 500. Press Tab. Now we have to define which interface we would like to place a call to. In our initial setup, we had made two SIP interfaces which are communicating with each other, and we will select that interface which we have configured for communicating with SN 4131. Destination interface, interface IFSIP. Now, before we start the call here, let's switch to our other unit where we would like to start a debugging. To do this, we use the command debug essential. That's essential with two S's. Trinity is looking out for me. Essential VoIP full detail. Now, when you press Enter and start this debugging, you actually start a lot of debugging monitors at the same time. There is an option to pause the debugging. We can do that with the command toggle trace. And we can see that we just stopped 32 trace monitors. And we can see here that the command show trace suspended will show us which debugging monitors we have stopped. So that would be show trace suspended. And here we see the list of all the debugging monitors, which can be started with just that one command, debug essential VoIP full detail. Here we see that we have a trace for the call control. We have a full ISDN trace. We have a full media gateway trace, which includes DSP and RTP resources. And we have a full SIP debug. 90% of the time when you are troubleshooting and working on a Trinity device, debug essential VoIP full detail is the command you actually need. If we would like to start all these debug monitors back up and get them running again, we simply type toggle trace once again, or use our up arrow key, right? Which will start the trace again. And here we will see that we have 32 traces resumed. Now we are ready to go back to our other SmartNode and start the call. We see that the call is successful. I will now stop the debugging with the command no debug all. And now let's end the call with call 123 drop. So now this call has been dropped, and we can see here what is happening with these logs we collected. We want to point out just a couple of things here. For starters, this is not the whole log. The entire log will be visible in a text file that is created by our logging. Here on this line, what we can see is that this device, 123, is sending the invite towards the soft phone. We are also sending a 100 trying message towards our .127 IP address, which is our SmartNode 4991. And here we are receiving from the soft phone. We are receiving a 180 ringing. So what is basically happening here? We have received the invite from this unit. Then we have passed that invite to the soft phone, which is actually what happened here. So this is the invite to the soft phone. When we passed the invite, we sent the 100 trying to the SN4991 to tell it that the session is still on. And in the meantime, we received a 180 ringing from the soft phone, and that 180 ringing has to be passed to the SN4991. And that's the moment when the call started to happen. Now we want to show you another very useful command. We will make another test call in a moment, but first let's duplicate this session here. We will create a separate window, okay? So these two sessions are the same. And now let's enter our next command. Show call control call continuously. This will continuously show us how many active calls we have currently on the system. Both of these windows are connected to the same unit. And now we want to make a test call by using the internal call generator again. Now I will make one more test call, and in the call control window, we can see that call has been connected. Now if we drop the call from the soft phone, here we will see that the status has been changed and the call has been released on the SIP interface side. But the call is still active until we tell the call generator that the call has to be dropped. Now when we say call 123 is dropped, then we can see here that there are no more active calls. Now we would like to create some kind of issue for us to troubleshoot. For example, let's close this and exit, and now the phone is no longer registered. We are about to see what will happen when we collect the logs while our phone is unregistered. Let's check this. When we perform the command show location service identity 500, we can see that identity 500 is once again not registered, just like we saw back at the beginning of this lesson. In a moment, we will place a call from SN4991 to see what will happen. But first, we will exit from showing call control by typing Control-C. Good. Now we are not in call control mode anymore. Let's make this window bigger. And now we would like to start Debug Essential VoIP Full Detail on the unit, like we did earlier, to see what will happen when we start the call. Switch windows, and we can up arrow a couple of times to go back to our call generator command. So we are using both of these windows so that we can start the call and debug on the same unit. Now we know that the call did not connect since our soft phone is not running. Let's drop the call here inside of the call generator. And over here we will say, okay, stop debugging using the command no debug all. So when we scroll up to the beginning of the call, we can see that with the call generator, we were able to send an invite trying to reach the soft phone, but we received the message 404 not found. And this message 404 not found means that there was some kind of problem. We received this message from the IP address of the gateway. So actually the gateway, our SN4131, informed us that this route cannot be set. And the reason for this is no route to destination. Of course, in our example here, we know what the issue is since we turned off the soft phone, but we can clearly see here in the logs what the issue is. And that's it for this lesson. So this is how we can set up and begin to troubleshoot when we have problems or failures on our networks. That concludes this introduction to basic troubleshooting. Thanks for watching.